Okemasko ekte in sikason Margaret Cardinal onitskapuni ohtenia miko peusihtajan semakoma egwaya exnamagia min kisniho ke usita pokikwe. I'm originally, my name is Okemasko, meaning the boss lady. Ekti is over there. In Sioux, it means she rides her horse along the ridge. And in Norwegian, it means the true one. Margaret Cardinal. I'm originally from Saddle Lake. I'm a TP maker and as well as a teacher of the TP teachings and as well as doing traditional arts. I grew up in Saddle Lake. And basically Cree was my first language. And I grew up, helping my mother and my grandmother harvest fish that came up the creek and watching my grandmother pulling the fish, lifting up her skirts and straddling the brook and catching the fish and throwing them on the ground. And us little kids would go around collecting the waddling fish on the ground, hauling them to my mother and aunt, who would then prepare them for smoking and harvesting them. So that's how I grew up then, before boys' school. I was 5 years old, 1959. Basically, I just don't remember whether my parents ever told us we were going. I think they saved that. I just remember having to take, because I'm in the days of horse and wagon days. Even though there were vehicles around, but my parents didn't. Especially my father, he didn't believe in using vehicles. So everything, we always walked everywhere, or we always had horses. I grew up with horses and wagons. So off we go to the local church, and church happened. But I think after that, it was, I didn't really know what was going on. There's so many people everywhere. The strangest part is that there was a grain truck there. I don't know whether it was it was a big truck with rails and a canopy on top. And what they were doing were collecting children. And I was one of them to be put in one of those trucks with the canopy and then hauled off, not knowing where it was going. It was just, I didn't realize I wouldn't see my parents after that for a long time. So that's kind of how I ended up leaving the reserve. And when we eventually, because we were all crowded in there, lots of kids was standing room only in the truck, the back of the truck. Never being in a truck like before, We ended up what is now known as Blue Quills, and I didn't know. It was amazing to me to see such a huge building, but I didn't really see the building until we got off the truck, and then we were herded into what I thought was a cave, because once you walked into the doors, it was dark, you couldn't see. And so I remember it as a cave. As it turns out, it was just a big gym, and it only had windows on the top, on the walls on the top. And I guess I could say that we were herded around like cattle, basically, and sorted out in sizes and male, female, It was kind of chaos. But I think the most frightening part was to see these aliens come out of different doors. And it looked like they didn't have any feet, but they just hovered around everywhere making demands and sorting us out and whatever. And it turns out that they were actually I think they're called the Grey Nuns. They're dressed in brown and black. They had you could only see their faces like this, They had this kind of hat thing, and very scary, very scary. When I entered school, I didn't speak a word of English. I was totally free. As it turned out, I was the youngest of all the little girls that were there, and I was number 44 is the number they gave me, and I was number 44 the rest of the time. And when they sorted us out, I remember being in line and watching all the girls, and when they called my name, Margaret Cardinal, I didn't know who Margaret Cardinal was. And my older cousin, she pushed me. She said, "Kianma, it's you." And I said, "Ma, boo." I said, "That's not my name, you know." And she says, "When you're here, that's going to be your name." And so eventually from there, I got to be number 44. That's, I guess, so I don't like to use the word, I don't like being called Margaret as much anymore because of the years that I spent there. I spent approximately 10 years in boarding school. And yeah, that was my first day at school. Well, the first time I got into school.